Okay, that's neither here nor there, though. I got a question for you boys.
Yeah.
About Triple G and where he stands in the parlance of MLS coaching. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, like, wow, we might actually have a top 3, top 5 MLS coach here in Triple G upon arrival, which feels like for the first time in a long time. And who is the top? Wilfred Nancy, maybe Jim Curtin.
Wilfred Nancy.
And then in Triple G, you might put over
Tata.
I'm putting Triple G over Tata, Peter Vermees, Gerard Martin, Tata, Phil Neville, Brian Schmetzer, Greg Vanny.
Why would you say Peter Vermees, man?
Because these are the top 10 highest paid coaches in the MLS. Wilfred Nancy, Luchi Gonzalez, Pablo Mastroeni. Well, Luchi Gonzalez is gone now. Pablo Mastroeni's gone now. No, Pablo's still there. Pablo Mastroeni, Ben Olsen, Oscar Pereira, Caleb Porter, Greg Vanny, Brian Schmetzer, Jim Curtin.
Still around?
Some of these.
Coaching?
This was last year. This is from This is June 10th, 2024. So people might have been fired.
Phil Neville got fired.
But these are the highest paid coaches, and to me, Triple G, I'll pay a lot more for Triple G than any of these coaches outside of Wilfred Nancy, right?
Well, I'll say this: if you're being serious, like the guy in San Jose has a lot of upside, but we're not sure what that's going to look like. But I feel like we've said that about like their last 6 coaches, but I'll backtrack. The number one is Wilfred Nancy with a number one with a bullet, right?
Yeah.
Jim Curtin, I would put. See that's where we start getting into this mosh pit of like who, Jim Curtin or Gregg Berhalter. Gregg Berhalter has been more ambitious in his career and has gotten higher jobs, but has he really been better? Is the question. And then the other question and the big question mark is we are still very early in the Steve Cherundolo experience. The Steve Cherundolo today does not look as good of a coach as Triple G, but what happens 2 years from now?
It depends.
Football changes quick, man.
It depends. I mean, Gregg Berhalter he could probably turn this club around, and we might be like opposites of what we were now.
Yeah, you're right. So, we could be like, oh, Gregg Berhalter is the greatest coach ever. Why did we run him out of town and for the U.S.? Yada, yada, yeah.
Like, we could be like 2 years from now, we could be like the Fire might be one of the top 5 teams in MLS. I mean, that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's a possibility.
I still expect playoffs next year.
I'm not expecting them just because this is his first year. You don't get everyone you want on the first year.
Doesn't matter, dude. It does
matter.
You can start the season with like 5 losses and 1 win and still end up like in 5th place. So you know what I mean? Like
if the Fire finish 10th or 9th and they make it to that single game knockout, is that going to mean accomplishment for you?
Yes, that will be a step forward. Correct.
Okay,
it's the first year.
Because honestly,
yes, for first year I expect 9th place. I do.
Okay,
or better.
Because honestly, that will probably be to me. It'll be kind of like a waste of time. Because let's be honest here. We go into the single game
waste of time. I'd say all the things leading up to this was a waste of time. This is now building on something, so it's not a waste of time to me per se.
Well, no, but I mean in terms of accomplishments.
Okay.
Because that's like you're kind of scraping at the bottom for that in the 9th, 8th place.
Well, how are we supposed to get there?
Unless you win it.
How can we get to the top if we don't start putting bricks up though? We got to get those bricks up.
I think gotta make the playoffs year 1.
I think what Toke wants is for us to kind of get in the mix of like playoff spots. I'm talking about not just 8th or 9th. He might be referring to like 7th, 6th, maybe even
anywhere between 7th and 9th. I will consider a very successful season.
I mean, I think if you get to 7th, I think at that point it's
because
okay.
You could. That's the thing about it is there should be no reason whatsoever on planet Earth we don't go into the season with all 3 DPs and our young DP and all our TAM spots done. Meaning, even if they are not gelling at the beginning of the season, there should be no reason you can't recover. We've seen teams start off complete stinkers and run and like end up.
So we're gonna have a different look on this team next season for sure. I don't, I'm not expecting some of these guys to stick around. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking a quarter of this team might be gone next season. And
I think 50% of this team's gone. I'm
hoping 50.
40.
I'm hoping 50%.
40.
I'm hoping I'm hoping like 40-50% of this team is gone and we have new faces. The thing is that for the past 5 years, ever since Mansoto bought this team, we have been burning money left and right on trash. Like,
Who cares?
no, hold on. But what I'm
Adds
saying
up.
is that we're gonna get that money. We're gonna maybe this time we actually might be getting something good for our return.
Exactly.
We're actually having someone that's might have a much more. And keep in mind, he's not only the sporting director; he's the head coach. So he's gonna find players that are gonna fit his system. He's not gonna
there
have to
won't be any
negotiate.
confusion about whether
There
they fit
won't
the
be-
system or not.
There won't be like a middleman. Like, hey, we need a holding midfielder. Okay, the GM buys some random guy that plays in first division Slovakia. Which from our experience hasn't really worked out, or Lithuania or wherever. So we're gonna have a guy that's basically gonna take his money, go look for players, build up his team. He's basically gonna be living out Football Manager. So there you go.
That's why I say you got to finish ninth, man, because even with a slow start, you could do it. James, what are your expectations?
Mike, they can make the playoffs. If they don't, I'll be sad. It won't kind of make sense, but as long as they make the playoffs, I think that's going to be great. If they get knocked out in the first run, that just gets me excited for next year for them to get better. They have something to build on. They have something to look for. They have like, okay, we got here. Let's get that much further and better and beyond.
And that's key right there. What you just mentioned, that's
set the stage for success.
Something to build on. Like let's say the Fire go on a Cinderella run. Let's say by some miracle, some act of God, we get to like semis or something like that, or we have like a Cinderella run. We lose. We need to build on that. We cannot go like 2017 where we actually had a really good season and then we just let it go to crap the next season.
See, they didn't build off that. They built it up and then did not build off of that, and they didn't have the people. They didn't have the horses in charge.
Nelson Rodriguez stripped that team.
And so finally we have the guy in charge who not only can build it up to that, but then can go the next step after that. He has the financial
backing too. He has the financial backing. Imagine if this team was ran in 2017 by a different GM, a different owner, a different coach.
I said, what if we had Triple G in 2017? It would be so much more different because they would be able to build off of that success. They would have built off of that success.
We would probably be one of the elites at this point.
Yes, and that's the thing about DPG. That's 7 years later. You're talking about the elites. This is going to take a long time to get to that point. It is. A long time.
I'm not asking for elites. I'm saying in a league where 9 teams make the playoffs. To tell me you're going in the right direction, and after all of this.
And I don't think it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take as long as it took Jim Curtin with Philadelphia.
No, I mean he had to do that with the. He took a bunch of 8-year-olds. They're like, okay, in 8 years, I've got my starting lineup.
There you go.